All right, hello everyone. Happy Thursday. Got people hopping on. Look at all these awesome follow-up boss people hopping on so quickly. We'll give you
Automatically
guys,
popping on.
yeah, automagically. Looks like we're good on Facebook now too. Um, Very cool. So, welcome to Follow Boss Office Hours. We are focused on having these sessions where we go over a topic with you guys, and we really want you guys to interact. We want you to ask questions. We want you to hop on screen if you're up for that. Sometimes people are known to get small gifts if they come on screen, just a little bribery there. But we're going to go over a couple of things. We're covering automations today, and we'll share our screen a little bit and go through some of those sessions. But just want to introduce everybody real quick, or have everybody introduce themselves. My name is Lee Edmonds. I do Follow Boss webinars and such, and kind of hang out in the Follow Boss world, kind of a wannabe Follow Bosser. And Lyndon, why don't you intro yourself and we'll go down the line.
Yeah, my name is Lyndon. I'm a customer success manager at Follow Up Boss. I've been here probably just I guess going under 2 years now. So I work with our accounts all over, making sure that there's putting the pieces together to see success, I guess you could say. And kind of my wheelhouse is really lead nurturing and following up with your leads, so your team is converting more leads. So look forward to spending this time with everyone. Thanks for joining.
And hi, everybody. My name is Jeremy Smith. I'm also a success manager on the Follow Up Boss team. And I've been with Follow Up Boss for just over a year. Just hit that anniversary last week. And so I work with Lyndon and clients on making sure that you're getting the most value out of Follow Up Boss, knowing all about the functionalities and how it's going to best lead to your success.
Hello, and I am Caroline. I'm a product manager here at Follow Up Boss. So I work with, all of our brilliant team members here, but specifically I worked on the automations project. And so that's why I'm on this call today. And we love hearing about what you guys like to see out of the product. And yeah.
Awesome. Very cool. So first, we're going to go over a couple of quick housekeeping items. Jeremy, if you could share your screen, that'd be awesome. And then what we're going to do is walk through really quick, what is an automation? What do they do? What are some of the things you can do with them? We'll take a quick look at some of the automations that are just easily available to all automatically in your account. And then we'll take it from there. But this is a great opportunity to ask the experts on automation. So the first quick item of business, I just want to mention that if you guys could please use the Q&A for questions. There's a little double quote bubble down there. It really helps us manage. You're welcome to use the chat, but if you ask a question in the chat and we don't get to it right away, sometimes they can get lost. So we just want to make sure we get to your questions. Also, in a little bit, we'll ask for volunteers to come on screen. So if you will come on screen, if you're willing to do that, you can click the raise your hand button. There's a little hand. If you click on that, as we get finished with either whoever's on or as we're ready to bring somebody on, we will give you panelist access and bring you on. So Caroline, why don't you tell us a little bit about what is an automation? Let's just begin at the beginning.
Yeah, great. So an automation is a way to automatically start an action plan based on a trigger. So there's different triggers that you can use here, but the idea is that, with lead flow, you can automatically start an action plan when a lead comes in. But what about all of your existing leads? So what are the things that we want to trigger off of for an existing lead to start an action plan? So some of the triggers to automatically start an action plan with an automation would be a stage change. So if you change the stage to nurture, for example, or a tag is added. So if you tag the lead, re-engage, those are things that can then kick off an action plan, which is, we're all probably pretty familiar with those, but a series of steps after that.
That's great. And then obviously those action plans could do things like any action plan, but it could be a stage change or add a collaborator. I mean, there's a ton of options. We should probably do the math on how many possible combinations there are.
It would be infinite.
Or maybe not. But cool. No, that's really great. That's a great explanation. And then what about the conditions while we're on that?
Yeah. So, in order to make these action plans like more specific, we added the ability to then add conditions to these. So they work really similar to your smart list that you're used to filtering your smart list. So for example, if the stage is nurture and the last communication is more than 2 weeks ago, then do this. So you can add multiple conditions per automation. And then all of the conditions must apply. So similar to your smart list where you use multiple filters to get them to show up on your smart list, you can add multiple conditions to kind of filter people out from the action plan being applied.
Cool. That's great. This is such a great feature. I mean, I know a lot of people did a lot of band-aiding with Zapier and other things before, but this is such a user-friendly, both the interface and just the ability to understand it. So yeah, I think it's really cool. Jeremy, do we have stuff on the other slide, kind of high level, or should we go into the?
Yeah.
Okay,
so,
cool.
So we were looking at, so automations can absolutely provide a ton of additional power, Follow Up Boss power with a lot less effort. There's a lot, it's going to remove a lot of manual touches. It's going to, and it's going to increase, I think, one of the great things about it is it's going to increase your imagination. Like, where can these automations take me? I did say it's Zapier here because that's one of the intents, right? We want to try to pull some of the things that folks are using, a lot of Zapier zaps for, back into Follow Up Boss. And we have there's the 4 steps, but I mean, I'm really excited to hear about other people's ideas and to touch on some of these questions, because I mean, there's so much that even just working with my clients that they've been telling me that's sparking their imagination and what they're getting ready to do.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's
so let's look at some. Oh no, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to mention that it's kind of, as we do these office hours, that's really ultimately what I want. It would be great for everyone kind of on the call to think about is we're here to share. We're here to learn other ideas. What are other people doing really successfully? So please feel free to hop on if you have great examples that you're using, because that's only going to kind of cause that collaboration. Something that I kind of wanted to add too, as we've going through kind of high level automations, how are people using them? As I've had calls with teams, there's always kind of, I do get a lot of the, okay, great. Now that we have automations, what I want to do is I want to add this tag to all my leads, and then that's going to trigger this action plan, right? But ultimately, that's not why automations are here. One, you can't do that, right? We can't mass apply those action plans, which sometimes are commonly asked. I like to think of automations as what's something that your leads are doing, and think more on an individual basis. As things change with leads daily, right? I want something to go to that lead, right? And a birthday is a great example. I don't want to send my birthday emails every day. I want, when it's someone's birthday, to something automatically happen. That's what automation is here for. Or when my lead changes, when a certain lead changes from a nurture lead to a hot lead, well, I want to trigger an automation there, right? And if you think about more kind of on the individual basis of every lead, that's where you can really kind of start to see the power of these automations. So I just kind of wanted to add that.
Yeah, I love that. And that teed up one more thing I know I've said a couple times, and if you've heard me say it, maybe it's annoying. And if you haven't, then I might save you some pain. One of the things I really like about using this is when you make the new action plans that you're triggering, consider having one of your first steps of that action plan to pause the prior action plans, because you want to be careful that you're not running one of the automated drips or some other 12-month action plan. And now you moved them to a hot prospect. Now they suddenly got this mixed messaging of, hey, we're ready to go or get you back on the site, versus, some other messaging. So you might consider that. And Meg just added a great use. One of the numbers that we can look at right now is the bad number automation. She said it saved her a ton of time. So somebody want to walk through that? Or at least click on it. We'll check it out.
Yeah, sure. So the bad number automation, absolutely. So this is a pretty simple one, but it does so much to help keep you guys keep efficiencies. So the trigger is any type of tag, and we added a bunch of these to for you guys to use. If I think, Caroline, these are some that folks already were using, and some that were coming through from other maybe some of these are coming from lead sources that were already in the system. So yeah, by all means, if you these are the types of tags that are already in Follow Up Boss that are being used, and any of these tags will now fire the action plan, the wrong number action plan, which basically just sends an email automatically saying, we're trying to contact you, but we don't have a phone number. And is there a better way to reach you, with some basic information? And it sends a couple of those on the first couple of days to see if they'll get in touch with you. So it's a great way of starting the contact process for those folks.
Here's a good question, as I'm going to kind of just pop in from time to time with some Q&A here. Automation works only for new contacts, and that's a question. If I want to run an automation to all my current hot prospects, can I move them to another stage and then move them back to hot prospects so we'll trigger to automation? I'm
going to answer that because yes. The first thing that you can do is in your automation, you can use the stage change that you're going to put them into, or even a tag add. You don't have to use the stage change. You can just add a tag to those folks, but you can, and I've worked with a couple of clients already who have decided to use a stage change to put them into the action plan, and then in the action plan that they attach to that automation, that action plan has a step to put them back to the hot prospect stage as one of the first steps. So there's a couple of different things you can do there. You don't necessarily want to update your stage if it's not applicable, but definitely add a tag. But if updating a stage makes sense, then to you, then it can definitely be that. And Follow Up Boss can switch it right back over for you. So yeah, the action plan can, one of the actions in the action plan is change stage. So it can be the very first thing to put it back to the stage that you want them to stay at ultimately. And it won't interrupt the automation because the trigger will have flipped, right, Caroline?
Right, it will have already happened. So, once that trigger happens, we kind of kick everything else off from there. And that's a good point with some of the tags that you're adding. So I've seen some people do something like a weekly check-in where they're adding a tag once a week to trigger an automation. So like a week 1 tag is added, it triggers the week 1 automation, and then they'll just add a step that automatically removes that tag. So they don't have tags kind of floating around, but they can always use them as that trigger piece.
Exactly. I mean, it's one of the great things about action plans is that they can provide a lot of control over those additional lead profile details, and yeah, absolutely take advantage of pausing the action plans the way Lee identified, and remove the tags so that you're not building up those. You don't want those tags to build up and build up and build up over time. And the action plans can certainly help you keep those tags concise.
Another question, I am on an enterprise account. Are these settings available for individual agents to set and control, or is it an admin only feature to set?
So I can speak to that. Actually adding the automations, turning them on and editing them, marking them as shared, those are for account owners and for admins. However, this page, this list view, is available to anyone in the account. So they can click in and they can preview the automation. They can know what it does. They can view the action plan so they know what it does. That way, anyone on the account is kind of aware of these things that are running in the background. That way, if you add a bad tag to a contact and an action plan starts, you kind of know where that's coming from.
And it also lets the agent see how many times it's running on those folks there that are assigned to them, right?
Yeah, that's a great point. And so, if you're an agent and you want to know how many times a particular automation has run, if you click, right now these are all zeros, but this would have a number on here on a live account. You can click that and it will bring you to a smart list of those people.
Yeah, our demo account doesn't have any of that, but if you click on the number, it takes you right to the smart list and you can drill down from there.
That's a great tip. I want to just re-emphasize that. And similar with the reporting and with batch emails in the reporting, that's such a useful feature. So I think it doesn't hurt to really overemphasize that. Pretty much if it's blue, you can click on it and it'll take you, generally speaking, to a list of all the people that meet that criteria. So really, really good feature.
Kind of another question here. And as we go through these questions, anyone who's, as I mentioned before, the kind of being office hours, we love to kind of hear anyone who has some good automations that they're currently using. Feel free to raise your hand and come on. Can I use a tag as a trigger to move a lead to a different agent group or pond?
We don't have that quite yet. You can use your ponds as conditions right now. So you could have a tag the trigger could be a tag being added, and you could see if it's being, assigned to a pond or assigned to a particular agent and use that as a filtering mechanism. But we don't have that reassign stage as part of the action plan yet. But that is something that we are kind of playing around with. So stay tuned on that one for sure. Yeah, right there. So where you see, you can add the condition for pond or add the condition for assigned agent or really even lender or collaborator. And where that could be helpful is this is a really great example. So if there's a new inquiry coming in and it's assigned to a pond, you might want to do something like add a note to the profile that notifies all the agents in the pond. So that would be a really good way to use that condition along with the add a note step of the action plan.
Which is also pretty new. And maybe I should just take a second and show that.
Yeah.
So that's a brand new step. Was it 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, we added this as an action plan step?
Mm-hmm.
Adding a note in an action plan now can work like a customized notification. So if your action plan is to advise agents of new website activity for a lead that's already a few days old or even older, you can establish a standardized message and set it to assign to either the individual agent assigned or the pond that the lead is assigned to, or the lender, or the collaborators, or all of them. So it works just like a custom notification. You can still use merge fields in this note as well. So if there's specific information you want to pull from the contact, it will do that as well.
And that shows up as an email to anyone that's being notified. And in that email, we actually show the message, and then it shows the contact information along with a link to that person's profile. So if someone's out on the road, what have you, they'll have the number right in that email. So they don't even need to take the time to stop, pull up the app. It'll be all in that email.
Right, since it does come through as an at mention, you get the link back to the lead and have everything available.
Mm-hmm.
If we are connected with automation with Ylopo, does that cause too many things going to the lead, or can we set these up to be simultaneous? I would say, if I kind of hop in here, sometimes it can cause a lot of moving parts. I think obviously everyone's situation is going to be a little bit different here. It's important to kind of almost sit back and say, with automations, okay, what is missing? What do I need to have occur, right? And then if something's missing, then you say, okay, well, how can I apply an automation to change the stage of this lead or to fire this action plan that isn't currently being triggered? So it can cause too much confusion, but I think what's your plan? And then as you come up with your plan, that's when you start adding automations.
Yeah, that's a great point. And keep in mind, there's a lot of steps in action plans that are really workflow oriented. So, not necessarily, they don't always have to be communications going to a contact. They can kind of be behind the scenes, such as tasks or like we saw notes, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think the triggering an action plan to a stage change. I mean, if you're kind of wondering where to start or if this seems really complicated, I think something as simple as, when we move people to nurture, when we move them to cold, just put them on, a buyer long-term action plan, or if they're leads that, have been in for 60 days and they're still in lead, things like that. And that to me is kind of an easier global type of thing to kind of dip your toe in. I think sometimes people get excited about all the possibilities, and then that can, it can cause confusion. And especially if you're a bigger group, if you're a solo agent, great, have at it, make a bunch of crazy automations. But if you've got other people involved that you have to either train up or explain, to me, more simple is probably better. And again, if I had to start somewhere, I would start. That nurture long-term buyer right there is great.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Lee. And that's, one of the reasons we preloaded the account with some action plans or some automations that you can just kind of use out of the box. They're definitely more on the simple side in terms of like that bad number or just, nurture long-term buyers. But these are ready to use. So, you can simply just turn them on and, start to see some value there. And sometimes I feel that kind of gets like the gears going, and you can kind of start brainstorming the possibilities from there.
Yeah, totally. One of the ones that I like to present first is post-closing follow-up, because it is kind of a no-brainer. Just update the stage to closed, and you get this great reminder list of all the tasks that that you can use to help enrich a client relationship that really you can think about isn't ending with the closing, it's just getting started.
So we just had a hand raiser.
Yeah.
Mark, if you wanted to unmute, if you had something to say, we'd love to hear what you have to say.
Hey, this is Mark Eiber calling from Denver.
Hey
Mark.
Hey, Mark.
Hello.
Hey, sorry, I came in late. I've been here like 5 or 6 minutes, but I'm blown away. Have automations been with us the whole time? Am I that inept on the program that we've had automations the whole time? And so the big thing is, are automations triggered by a stage? Is that the difference versus an action plan? Is that what I want to know? I'm just trying to discern action plans versus automations. They're both an action plan, but I'm assuming there's some type of trigger that's different than an action plan, right? Is that what the difference is?
Yeah, we can go through that super quick, and they are new. So you did not somehow magically miss automations. They're
It's like, what the hell?
Mark, don't you think I would have mentioned that over all our conversations over the years?
They're like, don't tell Mark about this automation.
Well, sometimes you're like busy, and right? Like oh my God, automations was up there. I was wondering how to do birthdays and stuff, right? I was wondering how to do that.
Yeah.
Birthdays and post-close stuff. I know you guys have said that before, that you have this post-closing thing that's, I know it's triggered off the date that's in one of our custom, the custom tags, not the custom tags, but the custom columns, right?
Yeah, it can be now with the automations, Mark. With the post-closing plan can fire automatically off of a deal close date. If you're not used to using the stage and updating the stage on the lead profile to close, but you use the close date in your deals, you can absolutely have it fire off that close date instead of the update to the stage.
Yeah, so the custom fields, of course, could be integrated in all this. That could be a trigger field right there, right?
Yeah, as long as it's a calendar date, and then all custom fields are available as conditions. So hold on. So the conditions all can work off of any filter that's in your smart list. And that includes all your custom fields. So if you've got something specific in your custom fields, you can use that to make sure that your action plan is only going to work on those folks that either qualify for that or you want to disqualify them for having that data.
Mark, we should go back to Mark, your original question, just so we can really make sure that everyone is on the same page. Is automation versus action plans? What's the difference?
Yeah. So 30,000 foot view, what is that?
So the action plan itself is what happens, and the automations is the way to make it happen. Before we had automations, the only way to make an action plan run automatically was to attach it to your lead flow. But now with automations, the action plan can turn on automatically from all sorts of different combinations of things happening or information or data that you have in place.
Got it. So you can apply a pre-designed action plan from automations to trigger based on the trigger, whatever trigger there is, right? Is that what you're saying? Like the behavior can it be created in action plans and in automations, or do you go to the action plans to get the behavior?
Oh, good question. I think so let me clarify. So you can put a step in an existing action plan that might, let's say, fire automatically off of a new lead coming in. You can add a step to an existing action plan, like add a tag or change the stage, that can actually fire another automation, and you can chain them together. So that's definitely something that you can do.
Awesome. Very good.
Yeah, very cool. Thanks for coming on. We appreciate it.
No problem, man.
Thanks, Mark.
Mark.
Trying to pull up a question here that
We got
might
a
be
bunch
a
of good questions.
good one. Yeah. Will this connect with AM cards?
Yeah, so AM cards, you can, I guess there's a few things you can do here. So one would be to set something up. Yeah, so I guess quick overview, AM cards is one of our embedded apps. And it's a software that actually sends out handwritten cards. And so if you have that turned on, you can actually see, yeah, I don't know if it's connected in this account, but you can send handwritten cards right from the profile here. So there's a few things you could do with AM cards and automation. So one, you could kind of go, full send and set something up through Zapier, which maybe there's a tag that's added through an automation that triggers it in Zapier. That way you're like completely hands off. But some other things that other things that you can do here, which I think might even be, it keeps it all in Follow Up Boss, which is nice, but you could simply just add a task that says send an AM card. And on that day, the task would populate. And what you can do is go to that profile. And then from the AM cards app, you can actually fill out the card. You can pick the card and you can customize it a bit more. And I think, one of the great things about AM cards is it really gives that like personal touch. So I think that's probably a better approach, would be simply tasking yourself with picking out an AM card to send probably about 5 days before the birthday. So, the automation would trigger 5 days before the day of the birthday. And then that would give you enough time to pick out the card, and, it gives it a little bit of wiggle room for that actually to be physically delivered to your lead.
Right. Now, wait a second. So do you, I guess that's a good question. I haven't done that before. Do you have to edit?
Yeah.
You have to delete it and start over to have that happen?
You can do that. And you can also add, multiple, this would make sense if you had like a few birthday fields, maybe something like that.
Yeah.
We sometimes see that happen, that you have like multiple fields for, you haven't gone through and kind of combined them all in one. So you can have multiple dates in one trigger. And that's the same as your stages or your tags. So as we saw, like with that bad number automation, you can kind of put a variety of tags, because then we look for any of those tags to then trigger off of it. So it's kind of a similar concept with the date.
Yeah, so this would work well if you've got like a spouse birthday or other birthdays in the same, in your custom fields. You can just add them here so that the automation works off of more than one.
Yeah, and back to the AM cards example, if you have like an anniversary date and a birth date, you could add those both here, and that could trigger the task to send an AM card. And then, once you're in the profile, you would obviously see which date was coming up.
So you just change it to event in 5 days.
Yeah.
Happy event. Awesome.
So what happens when I have multiple agents and my stage closed buyer triggers my action plan that sends out a review with my review link? Now, with my agents doing that, how can I have the same action plan with their review email link sent.
I can think of one way is that you can use an email template, obviously, and have your review link in a custom field that you could pull in through a merge as a merge field, so that link would populate in the email template.
I think you'd have to do a separate template for each agent though, because the merge code would have to pull from the contact record. Because I was just thinking that too, but it would have to be in each contact record, I think.
Well, what about putting a review link in your email signature?
You could do that too. Another option would be to use that agent field as a condition. You would have multiple automations at that point, but it is a condition. So you can say if the stage changes to closed and the assigned agent is Jeremy, then send out this action plan that has Jeremy's link in there. So, there's definitely a bit more of a setup in that sense, but I mean, that's one of the huge benefits here is that, if you put in the time on the front end to set these up, you're saving all those steps forever after. So,
right.
That's an option too.
Sorry, falling behind on my Q&A here.
Anybody else have any great ideas that you want to jump in and share? Anybody have any? So who's been using this for a little bit?
With automations, can we set up action plans for our deal processes as well?
Yeah, so some ways I've seen this used that are really neat is people utilize the custom fields as the custom date fields for parts of the transaction, and they'll trigger things based off of that. So, in terms of what happens on a particular date, it's variable. You can choose what you want. I mean, again, it could be as simple as adding a task, but it could also like assign a lender at some point or send out an email. So those are some ways that you can use it through transactions that I've seen that I think work really well.
And Caroline, I'm glad you mentioned the date thing for longtime users. Can we go into that for a second, Jeremy? Can you hop into custom fields?
Yeah.
There are some formats now that if you've been a user for a long time, or if you were a Follow Up Boss 1 user, there's actually a date format now. And so you're going to want to make sure that you select the date format for fields that you want to use to trigger from the calendar trigger. At least you can still trigger things from custom fields, but if it's time based, just make sure that your the format for your field, and then also the occurs every year.
Right, make it recurring so that it works for does the automation need it to be recurring, Caroline?
Yeah, so if you're using a recurring date like a birthday or an anniversary, there's a setting in the automation that says run this automation more than once. That way, every single time the trigger happens, the action plan will be applied. So, the default is that doesn't happen, that it just happens once. That way, if you're sending out, communication, your customer isn't getting the same thing over and over. But that is a setting. And so like looking at the birthday email, for example, or you'll see that it's set to run multiple times per person. So that's and it's paired with a recurring date field. So every year on the birthday email will be sent out.
Gotcha.
And another quick tip that made me think of, sorry, I don't want to go too rabbit hole, but that you could put a note in your calendar or just do it every year where you change that message yearly, and then they're still going to get a different message, the following year if you just change the template itself. That doesn't affect it from running, does it, Caroline, if you edit the template itself?
No, that's exactly kind of the idea here. So like once a year, like Lee said, you can just put an event on your calendar that says swap out the birthday email. Since it's triggering off of that date for each person, they're always going to get, whatever the newest one is. So as long as you're switching it out once a year, no one's going to get the same message. So this is a really good opportunity to add a little, like a bomb video or your own personalized video or
Yeah,
a
absolutely.
different
Or a
GIF.
dog on a trampoline.
Yeah.
Now everybody's going to want this one.
Everyone has this
Share
one.
Yeah, this one's baked in. This is Caroline chose a
nice.
good one to put in here.
Nice.
For a team, these automations cannot be generalized. How do other teams work? For example, every buyer specialist is nurturing a lead and know what works best for them. I think I can kind of tackle this one in. It's very important that everyone is on the same page for the automations that you have. Everyone is on the same page. And I guess kind of a good example here is adding a stage for an automation, a change from a nurture lead to a hot lead. Everyone on your team knows exactly what is a hot lead. Everyone knows exactly what is a nurture lead, and whatever that is, it's up to the team as the definition of those stages. But if you have that same kind of definition that everyone's aware of, knowing that, okay, now that this is a nurture lead, it's now moved to a hot lead because it fits that definition. Therefore, this automation is going to be triggered and this action plan is going to go out. If your team isn't on the same page for the stage definitions, then they're not going to be on the same page for those automations that go out. But if they are on the same page, then that automation that's triggered is going to really make sense for the leads as they make those changes.
Right. Yeah, this is a great opportunity to like really kind of look inward and review your workflows and standardize some of those as a team. Because again, you can save so many of these steps, once you have these in place. And then I guess like just one other piece though, this is where those conditions can be really helpful. So, again, a condition could be, if this happens and it's assigned to this particular agent. So if you have 4 agents that are on the same page and 4 that are not, you can say, okay, include, these 4 when this automation happens, exclude the others.
Right. And I just went over that with a client yesterday, is that they definitely had 2 different sets of folks who really like having the extra hand with automations and automated processes, and folks who really liked doing things manually, actually, and had good systems and so forth that were working well for them. So yeah, that condition is great to make sure that those folks who really don't want the automations on, to just exclude them from the action plans.
Here's one to put us all on the spot here. We all got to kind of brainstorm together. If you had to pick the top 3 stock automations we should turn on today, what would you suggest? I'm going to go first to get over with. Happy birthday, without a doubt. Happy birthday. Everyone, the entire team gets on board with that. As we kind of just were going through it, everyone gets super excited when they see that email and they add that and they know that that's going out.
Okay, I'm going to go second to make this harder for everyone else. I would say I really like the new inquiry for an existing lead automation. It's another one that you can turn on, and it's recapturing those really key moments. And we're filtering out people who just, they just had a new inquiry. So, that way, it's a key moment. They're active again. They've thought about something else. And so I think that's a really good one to action pretty quickly, which I think is the goal of this one.
Yeah, I'm going to turn that one on too. And I honestly, since I mentioned it earlier, I love selling people on this feature just with the post-closing follow-up.
Yeah.
I think that's, it's a super way of reinforcing positive customer service after the close, and it's so easy to do and it helps if everyone uses the close stage already, but that can be updated to whatever stage you actually use to indicate whether you switch them straight over to past client. Fine, we can use past client. So
yeah, cool. Yeah. This is kind of a combination of a stock one, I guess, but I'm a big fan. The thing I see all day long is people just have 13,000 people in lead. Mm-hmm. So I'm a big fan of using the initial action plan to take people out of lead if not contacted after 14 days, 30 days, 90 days, whatever that is. But using them potentially an automation to trigger. So I would use the initial action plan to trigger a stage change, and then I would use the stage change to trigger a 12-month or a 2-year, just 30-day or 60-day touch. So the stage change is my short answer, but getting the stage change, it can also be part of an action plan.
Yeah, that's a great hybrid. Make sure that your action plans that you're already using on your lead flow, that they do something at the end, like put a time frame on these people, on these folks that are still in lead. If you don't get in touch with them after 2 weeks or 30 days or 5 days, make something happen at the end of your action plan that's going to coincide with your philosophy on what that lead should be next.
Yeah,
And
that's a great one. And at the very least, sometimes I just make a task that says action plan complete, just because otherwise they're going into space. So a task, a stage change. I've had people do tags, things like Zillow did not convert or did not reach or Realtor did not convert or things like that. Even specific, adding a tag, to the end of it. So again, when you hire an ISA or bring on a new agent, they can just go work that tag. But I think that's really smart, Jeremy. I'm glad you mentioned that.
Well, I learned that from you, Lee.
There's a question, when can I do a one-on-one training with automations? All of you now is a new kind of feature that we've just released in the top right corner. When you're logged in, there's a big question mark on your account. And that's going to help give you your point of contact, our support team, if you're a team, your customer success manager. So this area will help you schedule kind of more of those more personalized meetings.
Yep. You can go right to that link and schedule a time with our customer success team or your to go over those items.
Boom, boom, boom. So I'm kind of going through here. And on a lead staying in a stage for some time, what is the trigger? I guess I'm not clear of that question.
Oh, I think that's a following up with what I just said. So you can have an auto apply action plan on your leads, and they could be per lead or, just one you use for all, not per lead, per source, or one you apply to all your sources, where, at the end of it, you add a step that is change stage.
Yeah. And so and that's a great point. So this is a really generic first contact action plan. And sometimes it works it can work really, really well the way it is, but determine your time frame for this action plan. This action plan goes through the 20th day. And ideally, at least during the first 10 days, you're reaching out to your new leads every day to try to convert. So on the 20th day, after this last email goes out, it can run, 0 days after that's going to happen on the same day, or you can even push it a day to see if that last email captures a contact, and then just change the stage and put it in nurture or something like that. Get them out of lead. And then the stage change right here to nurture. Let's say if I do save this, I'm playing around with Caroline's demo account now, but if I do switch it to nurture and then switch on my, where'd it go? Nurture long-term buyer action plan, automation, the nurture long-term buyer automation is going to find that stage change and go ahead and automatically fire the buyer long-term nurture action plan, which is about, it goes over the whole first year and drips out a little bit more, drips out some more emails. And then also in concert with like using a smart list or adding some tasks in here, it can give you manual touches into this process as well. Reach out every couple of weeks or reach out once a month, give a person a quick phone call saying, is there anything I can still help you with? So there's all sorts of ways to, obviously, action plans for communication are meant to complement your own role and your own efforts. So switching on a buyer long-term nurture, while in and of itself can be beneficial, if you can tie it together with some individual outreach, you're going to be way ahead of the game.
When you turn on the automation, does it apply to all existing leads or only new leads coming in?
It'll just be for the new leads when that trigger happens on that particular lead. So that kind of goes back to the, the mass action piece as well. So, the idea is if these are happening like more organically and on like an individual basis, it kind of starts to spread out that need to have more mass actions and do that kind of thing.
I have 11 automations in my automation tab. Is there a place to get others that have already been set up that can be shared to help in setting up my own?
Yeah, so we have, if you're part of our Facebook group, which I guess we're on Facebook Live, so probably you are, we have some shared automations that are being shared there. We also have some, help articles that have some other shared automations, but one of the things that we focused on in building this was the ability to share these. So Jeremy is actually showing the share screen right now. So you can share your own automations within the community. So what you're seeing is like that toggle to turn on sharing. We do a link preview. So this is actually like what would show if you were to paste this link onto Facebook. And then anyone who has this link has access to the automation. So the triggers, the conditions, as well as the full action plan. So you can kind of like share, amongst yourselves, kind of crowdsource some of this information, ask questions, say, here's my automation, any tips, anything that's been working well. So definitely feel free to start sharing these and kind of, again, crowdsourcing some of this info.
Yeah. Are there any plans to have a library for automations the way we have an action plan library, Caroline?
Yeah, I think, I don't know if we'll take the exact same approach as an action plan library, but yeah, definitely something similar where we're kind of, I would like to imagine like a place where you can kind of like shop for these different automations. Like I'm looking for something for nurturing my leads, or, I'm looking for things based off of website activity. So again, we have some of that built out in our help center. I can share that link out after. So we have a few of those there, but we'll definitely continue to build upon that. And then we're also going to be, working with some coaching groups to get some of that out as well.
Great.
So many good questions. They keep coming. Is there a way that you can have an automation for someone to have a stage change after X number of touches, phone calls, texts, etc.?
Ooh.
Yeah. So one way to do this, I don't know, Jeremy, can I share my screen for just a moment?
Yeah, sure.
I have this kind of built out, so it might be easier. So one way I've seen this done that I think works really well is having like a weekly check-in. So it's an automation that just goes through and it tags your lead, week 1, week 2, week 3. And what's really great is based off of this tag, you can have a second automation. So this is where kind of like linking those automations together can be really handy. So, I don't know if this is, kind of next level things, but definitely something to put on your radar. So basically this first automation goes through and tags them on a weekly basis. And then there's a second automation that you can use. So once the tag week 1 check-in is added, there's a second automation that's looking for week 1 check-in that has these conditions. So stage includes lead. So that would be, kind of what Lee was talking about earlier. Is this still in the lead stage? Like, is this, should we update this, that kind of thing? And then you can add conditions such as talk time. Like within this first week, is the talk time still less than 5 minutes? Is the text sent less than 5? And then from there, you can have your action plan. So you can do, whatever you want with your action plan. Maybe it is reaching out to the customer via email, but you could also do something like that note that we mentioned. So we could ping the agent and say, hey, this is still in the unconverted stage of lead, and it looks like you're not contacting them enough. What's going on here? Provide an update. Maybe they just need to update the stage, but that's a good way to kind of keep them on track. So, again, that's kind of the week 1, but you could have something separate for week 2, week 3, based on that kind of check-in type of automation.
Cool. Good stuff, guys.
Great one.
Good questions. That's me saying that I'm delayed on a next question to queue up here as I was typing answers to other ones that are coming in. Can Caroline share this amazing weekly check-in automation?
Yes, definitely. We could do that.
It's awesome. That's a super secret automation. Only people on this
Yeah.
session. If you're watching the recording, too bad. I'm sorry. That's great. I saw a few people out. I'll just say it out loud. I'll buy Lyndon a minute to go through some. These recordings do go out. They do not go out to the registration list, but Andrew sends them out on his Friday emails. So take a look. There's a Friday email that comes out from Andrew. I believe it says Andrew at Follow Up Boss. They're great emails. They've got all the upcoming events as well as some of the recordings from the events that happened that week. If you're not on those, you're welcome to hit up support at Follow Up Boss just to be sure that you're getting them. But they're a great resource to kind of get all those either recordings or upcoming events in one chunk.
I don't know if we've talked much about this yet. Can you elaborate on how deals can be involved with automations?
Yeah, so with deals, we have a trigger for deal close date. So if you have something in here and you have a deal close date, we can trigger based off of that date. So, a few ways that I've seen this used is, so it's off of any close date. So you might want to add a condition such as, if the deal close date is today and the stage is closed, for example, then do this. Another way to go about it would be, if the deal date, close date is today and the stage is still pending, maybe you put a task on there that says like update the deal close date or, update the stage. Maybe it's one of two things there. And then remember, you can also use the custom fields. So if you're using custom fields to keep track of some of those other important dates within the transaction, you can use those custom dates as well.
Yeah, one that a client asked me, and I kind of brainstormed a little bit with them, is if they do finally get a close date and they've got, obviously if there's a close date, there might be some tasks that need to be completed before the close date, behind administratively to make sure everything is going smoothly, along with checking in regarding details, is that to set the close date out the amount of time that you need to complete your tasks, and then create an action plan that's going to have everything baked in, along with any and you can also absolutely add communication in there, and tasks to touch base with the client and make sure that everything's going smoothly on their end, and even with the lender.
And along those lines, just to kind of go a little deeper on that, just to make sure everybody knows, you can assign the task in that action plan to a specific person.
Right.
So if you have a transaction coordinator in Follow Boss, be sure you assign the task to that person, because if you don't change it, it's just going to be a task to the agent.
Right. Yeah. So so if you are in an action plan, you want to assign a task. Those tasks don't have to go to the agent. They can also go to a lender assigned to the contact, or they can be assigned to anybody on the team. So that's a great reason for, a lot of folks choose to, your transaction coordinators may not be part of Follow Up Boss. It's a great reason to add them because they get the ability to do that as well.
All right. A couple more. Any kind of last minute things we should add before maybe take another question or two?
I think we're good. I don't see any hand raisers either. So
cool. Let's take one more question here. Mark, you're raising your hand again. Why not? We got just a couple minutes here.
Let's do it.
You're back live, Mark.
You set up all these automations already? You're back for more?
Yeah. I think you're muted, Mark.
Yeah, do not sell out to some behemoth, inactive corporation that just wants to scam you and scam us. Okay, keep it to your people. I know that's hard to do, to not sell out, but don't sell out. That's all I got to say.
Oh, that's
noted. Cool. Well, there's a few more questions. I'm going to be more than happy to, I can kind of take these questions here that are here and type up some answers and shoot them out to everyone who's kind of, if there's any questions that are left unanswered here. I think that kind of gets us more towards top of the hour here.
Yeah.
Lee, any kind of last minute additions you wanted to add?
No, I think I just wanted to emphasize the help, make an appointment with a success manager or just reaching out to support and Follow Up Boss. Somebody asked me not too long ago, kind of how did I learn all this stuff or get into it? I just would always reach out to support. I'm just not afraid. Should be fair, at the time, Dan would answer them some of the times because I think I was the only, asking crazy questions and he might have had the only answer. But definitely feel free to lean on support for specifics to your account. Or just things that you think are dumb questions, because they're honestly not. I mean, we're all learning the system. They keep adding new features, so I think just be sure you lean on the resources that Follow Up Boss provides for you.
Yeah. And keep this simple too is kind of my recommendation too. Is this? It's very easy to get kind of in the weeds and a little overloaded. Trying to do so many things. It's just what's missing right now. What do I need my client that has done some type of action to see? So keep it simple, and I promise you, you're going to see a lot of success with this.
It's great, Jeremy. Caroline, got any last words?
Well,
Lyndon,
I
that
certainly
was nice.
I'm certainly going to encourage you to use your imagination. I mean, there's tons of there's infinite possibilities here because,
Yeah.
I mean, even if we did the math right now, there's custom fields that you might want to add in that are unique to you, and that increases the amount of combinations here, exponentially. So there's so much. Just use your imagination, and if you want to make sure that it works, reach out to support and see if that's going to be something that'll work.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, like everyone said, just start playing around with it. Start with one thing that you could just save some time by automating. And I think you'll really start to see the possibilities from there. So if it's a matter of turning on one that we've already preloaded or just setting one up yourself, I think getting one on, you'll start to see the benefits of this tool and how it can be used in the future.
That's awesome. Thank you guys all so much, and look forward to seeing you guys again soon.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks
Thanks, everybody. It was a
Bye.
pleasure.